Alrighty, folks. Welcome back to the Mushing Alaska podcast. We're your hosts, Brendan and Sean, and we are excited to bring you episode number 2. We've got another guest, our first guest of the season, Lauro Eklund. Welcome on, brother. How you doing?
Oh, great! I was excited to be on here. Finally, long time listener, first time caller.
Nice.
Heck yeah,
nice.
dude.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, dude. Cheers.
Let's get a cheers.
It's 6 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock here. It's I'm having a Bud Light lime. I'm not proud of it, but it does slap after a hike, and it is chilled. So, anyways,
I just got done running, and I'm having Foster's here. The pre-work, the post-workout meal of the champions.
I do. Did you? I talked to some Australians about Foster's the other day, and I was like, "It's like, what's up with Foster's? Like, do you guys drink that over there?" And he's like, "No, it's not even for sale, like at all, anywhere in Australia." And I was like, "What?" It's Australian for beer, And they're like, "Nah, it's just American thing." I was like, "Well, it's a good light beer, I guess,
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it does say on the can brewed in the USA, but what the hell? You can ask Christian about that.
Yeah. Next time. Dude, pronouncing your name, is it Lauro or Lauro? What do
I? Lauro. Lauro
okay.
Eklund.
Okay, cool. All right. Want to my mom still says mushing, so it's like, I just didn't want to call you like Lauro for like 3 years, and then so that's good to know. All right, so cool. Well, dude, I remember the first time and only time I've ever seen you, dude.
Oh, God.
The only time I ever saw you, I think, and I didn't really talk to you, but it was 2020, and it was the Quest 300, I think. Were you in the Quest 300 in 2020? Yeah, you got a cold foot.
And I took a lot of shit for that because at the time I was living up in Coldfoot, and I'm a guy from Coldfoot that got a cold foot, and it's still there, and I haven't had any serious issues with the cold afterwards, but I don't wear bunny boots anymore. I felt like the bunny boots let me down. It felt like a really good buddy, betrayed you, So, and I was like, shit, bunny boots. But I grew up wearing them, and they let me down. But yeah, it was a hard lesson. But I'm now very particular about footwear. Other than bunny boots are still good. I still use bunny boots, especially cutting firewood and stuff because they're heavier toed and whatnot. But now that it's it's a pretty heavy boot, so when the stuff we have nowadays that are way lighter and whatnot, it's better. It's better for especially working behind a dog sled, and how it goes.
Yeah. My first winter, I used like a $50 pair of bunny boots that I got at the military surplus store, and they were like, I guess there's like different like tiers of bunny boots. There's if you don't know winter gear, there's like we're talking about these big white military boots that were issued like a lifetime ago in the like 60s or something, and they stopped making them. So there's like a limited amount of them, and there's go ahead.
They still make them. Sorry, okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sean. They still make them. Still use them for they still use them for boots, but they're now the good ones aren't betas anymore. The good ones now are Air Boss. That's the military's issuing nowadays. So Air Boss bunny boots. So if you're into mushing or you want something bunny boot wise, get the Air Boss ones. Don't get anything else, because they're, other than Air Boss and betas, are only good ones out there right now. So there's a lot of knockoffs.
I'm pretty sure the price would reflect that potentially, right? Like.
Yeah. Oh, man, sorry.
Just saying like there's because I feel like I see them on the shelf and they're like $40, and then I see another pair that looks kind of the same, and it's like $299, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of missing out on something here, but they're good. They're a good starter pair of boots, and they're great in the dog yard. They're great, but then like the second you start standing on a dog sled or sitting on an ATV or you're doing these idle like non-movement, I feel like, yeah, the feet start to get cold. But dude, Nick Petit, there's like a lot of mushers that swear by the boots. They keep their feet warm. So.
It's funny. You guys are sitting over here telling me about bunny boots, and I'm like, what the hell is a fucking bunny boot?
No, it's yeah. I mean, well, it's life changing. I say you can't say you've had a serious mushing career if you've never worn a season's a bunny boot for a whole season or a couple seasons before you actually got money and switched to some other gear or money that you can keep changing. But yeah, man, it's they're like, they're 8 pounds, practically 8 pounds a piece. They give you nice calves in mushing season from pedaling. Yeah, pedaling this season. At least they gave me calves. I don't know, dude. They gave me
calves. I'd like to think I have pretty sizable calves, but then I like kind of see a picture of myself that someone took, and I'm like, oh, just like from my perspective, they look super sick. But from everyone else's perspective, I have needle dick legs, it turns out. But
yeah, no, same way. I'm a big guy too. I'm like, man, I got some nice calves. Look at those puppies. And I'm like, someone takes a photo of me wearing jeans. I'm like, oh man, look, I need to stop wearing tight jeans.
Oh man. Hey, for this, why don't we try you doing no video? I'd love seeing you, but it's a little bit buffering. So why don't you just try it without video for a little bit and see if it gets any better as far as the audio quality.
Sounds good.
Nice. So if you can feel all your feet, that's good. And so do you have a property up in Two Rivers? Like, I'm trying to kind of put together your like situation, because I don't really know like what your mushing like kennel like origin very well, and you own the dogs. Like, what are you doing like in the summers? Yeah. Kind of break it down a little bit.
So I have a property out here in Two Rivers, and I've always had my own dogs. The only time I've ever handled was with Lance Mackey back in 2013 or 2015, something like that. I can't really remember, but and I felt like right about then it was like this weird generation of mushers all coming up, and we're all kind of now buddies. So like everybody we know from Riley Dyke and Luther and all that we're all on that old Murphy Dome. But yeah, so past 9 years or so, I've always had my own kennel, and I've bounced around the state in a good way, work and just travel. But now I've chose Two Rivers as a spot to live and train out of. It's produced several Iditarod champions, Quest champions, mid-distance level champions out here, and it's a great training grounds. And while being close to Fairbanks, so I live about mile 20 on Chena Hot Springs Road, and yeah, I have great ATV access, trail access right out my front door, so it's awesome. I wish I wasn't right off the darn road. With letting dogs loose and to play around, I keep a really good eye on them. But, I can't complain about my trail access. I have awesome trail access out there. And so, yeah, I just, past 2 seasons, I've been working hard on develop my property, and getting ready and doing Iditarod and finally taking the steps to do Iditarod. And now, be doing a rookie year. And have my land all paid off, so now I can just throw money at Iditarod and still live somewhat, somewhat like what people will call off grid, but mostly it's just me, charging my phone off of, my truck and stuff like that.
which is where you're at right now in the truck. And dude, I appreciate that. You're not the first guest to talk to us from your truck. I think Lev was driving.
Lev,
But nice. So you're in Two Rivers, dude. I've seen that you've spent some time in Coldfoot. You just mentioned Coldfoot. Coldfoot, for maybe explain, about Coldfoot. Do you know anything, Brendan, about that place? Have you heard of it? I think most people haven't. I know very little about it, so I was going to kind of bullshit my way through an explanation about Coldfish, but I probably better coming from you, Lauro.
Coldfoot. So Coldfoot's in Wiseman, are about 60 miles above the Arctic Circle. So part of my coming up with sled dogs and stuff, I was 17, getting my first dog. I didn't really get into the whole guiding thing like a lot of people are now until about I was 20 years old. And so I started working with Northern Alaska Tour Company, who owns the Coldfoot camp. So that's where Dick Mackey and started that camp. There's like a big post. There's a huge post up there that it's dedicated to that has like that Dick Mackey put up and has Rick Mackey's whenever he wanted Iditarod, scribed into there and a bunch of other stuff. And there's little stuff of Lance and Jason's there's scribbles on this post. But anyway,
we'll do a quick timeout. We'll do a quick timeout. Okay, so Dick Mackey, correct me if I'm wrong, he ran the first Iditarod, right? And then
and he won. He won. I forgot when he won. But Dick Mackey, my dad was there when Dick won, and that's what inspired my dad to run Iditarod. That was like Dick Mackey had that finish where it was pretty much the photo finish, like who's lead dog. Him and Rick Swenson, like who's lead dog. That
was Dick Mackey. I think it was like 81 or something.
No, that was like in the 70s. It was like 78. And it's the wild photo with his hair is all over the place, and you can see like his hair is like sticking up, and he has the dog whip, and then there's Rick Mackey right behind him, and he's just yelling and running behind the sled. It's like that photo finish that we haven't seen yet again. That crazed photo. It's badass. It's a pretty badass photo.
Dude, I would love to get a good look at that photo. Like at Jeff's place for the sled dog tour that we did there, that we had like this 3-minute video, and it, had about less than a second of it had that image of that photo finish. And I remember, Jeff saying that they had to decide at the finish line. So let me take it back a little bit. This is a 1 second difference after 1,000 miles between first and second place. So if no one's wasting any time out there, these guys were, dogs and humans alike busting their butt. And back in the way in the 70s, that they used the whip for the sound, not to be whipping dogs, just to be making this cracking the sound. And just for the record, on ESPN, you'll still see people whipping horses. So just a perspective for people, but they had, I think whoever finished Mackey finished first, and his lead dog finished first. But I think Swenson, the musher, he actually crossed the finish line as a person first, right? So you had a situation where you have the lead dog finishing first on one team, but the musher finished first on the other team. And so they made like a decision right there at the finish line that was like, all right, well, what is the rule here? We have a photo freaking finish. Like, is it the nose of the lead dog or what? And so they just copied the horse rules, and I went with nose of the lead dog.
Oh, totally.
All right, I'm sharing.
Sick.
I'm sharing a photo right now. Is this the one you're talking about,
dude? No,
what, dude?
There's a more badass photo than that too. You gotta look up the one with him like like he has a number 13 bib on, and Lance won with a number 13 bib.
Oh yeah,
there's that one. That's pretty badass. But there's one with him running. And
yeah,
that's badass, man. That is like
damn,
that's
what a
some
photo.
gold. That's some mushing gold right there. Yeah, look at that, dude.
Look at that
The hair's
headlamp.
all over the place. Yeah, that's Dick.
Oh man.
Yeah. Back in the day, those headlamps, my dad, they had those. Oh, sorry.
No,
they had those from like, those headlamps. My dad was telling me those are like our lupines now back then. But he told me, like, imagine being on Yukon River and changing the bulb on the headlamp because it broke on you in the dark. And I remember Mike Ellis also told me that the same thing last December during the Solstice 50. Like, those headlamps back then, they had them all up to early 2000s. Like the headlamps that we use are fairly new. Back, 20 years ago, that was like the headlamp that everybody had. And that was what they were using back in the 80s, like our lupines and stuff. That was a new thing coming up, not that long ago. That we all use, or those lead lancers. So yeah, so imagine having the big ass D batteries and stuff and using those headlamps, big old D batteries and keeping that going, And they were pretty bright. They were like a car headlamp, but they were he had these massive D, like not D batteries, and these like huge like bricks of a battery, like they were like almost the size of my Foster's can,
Jesus.
Wow. Like a tall boy, the size of a tall boy beer.
Yeah, for people that are not watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
And while we're on this, I'm just, the first thing I am thinking of is like, how long do you think one of those would have lasted? Like before they had to either change the battery or change the light bulb?
I don't know, because I bet not long, because our batteries are double A's. You almost got to change. If you're like running a lead lancer with this double A's, you would have to change almost every checkpoint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, Sean, what you ran. I've ran with lead lancer, and I've run lupine. And lupine, you got to charge almost. You still got to charge at every checkpoint. Practically.
Yeah, which one's the one they give you for like some races? They just give you like as part of your musher package or whatever. Is that the lead lenser?
I guess I've never been given.
Oh yeah, right. That's a good point. You're running your first. Okay, yeah, but it's the one that. Yeah. Anyways, there's one that has 4 batteries in the back, but like when you put it in your bag, yeah,
and you can like you can adjust the beam.
Yeah, and I would put it in my bag. The problem I have with those, I put it in my bag and then the button was like exposed and really easy to like accidentally get pressed if it's in, some kind of tight area. And so I like so many times I've had it like, oh, sick. Like it's finally dark. I'm going to get my headlamp out. It's going to be so awesome. I'm going to see everything. And then you press it and it's like dead. And you're like, God. But I use the high end Petzl, and it's kind of heavy ass headlamp, but it's pretty sick. Like you got the rechargeable batteries and they last like, if you're being conservative, they last a couple runs, but like if you were beaming it, it's still like you could go high lumens and it would go for a full run pretty much. So that was kind of
totally
nice, but you need to charge them.
The big drop, and it's the big drop one, right? The Petzl drop where you can like drop it into your bibs.
Yeah, you can get that one, or you can get the one so there's like the battery on the headlamp for people listening that you can put it has a long cord from the headlamp, and you can just take the battery, which is the heaviest part of the headlamp, and put it in your pocket but then you kind of have to like, MacGyver that cord to a place, right? Yeah. So that's like probably like the downside of that, but the upside is you don't have the weight of the battery on your head. And I didn't really know any better. I ended up getting the one that had the battery on the actual headband of the headlamp. and it was pretty heavy. I guess it's like, I don't know which one is better, but I was definitely like glad to take it off whenever I did,
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I love my lead lancers. I run with the light pretty low. I try to when I have pretty good vision in the dark, so if I have any type of illumination from like stars or the moonlight and stuff, I run with no headlamp on. And I can read the trail. I feel pretty good about reading the trail, pretty comfortable with that. And that's, I don't know, that sounds like I'm, tooting my own horn, which I am, but also it is true. I do turn off my headlamp a lot. And try to save battery for one thing because it's expensive, but also just because I like running in that dark and let my night vision take over.
Yeah, it's truly like you get an idea of how much the snow helps you see. When it's like this time of year, when it like September, when it's before it's really snowed, and then it gets dark and there's no snow on the ground, you're like, holy shit, it is dark. And then the snow's there and you're like, oh, like you can, after 20 minutes without a headlamp, you can see pretty well. I don't know about like reading the finer details of like the trail, but you can certainly see the trail. And if it's like, easy going or you've been on it before. Yeah. But I always,
oh, totally.
But yeah, so go back to Coldfoot. So you spent a lot of, you camping up there in the spring and stuff. And yeah, what's life like up there in the 60 miles above the Arctic?
So I lived there year round, for about 3 years, and then, saved up money and bought a property in Two Rivers after that. Damn. And then I still go up to, and I guided up in Coldfoot. So Coldfoot was a trucker stop, but they also had tourists going up there. It's super pretty.
I'm looking at pictures right now. It looks, there's no snow on the ground in these pictures. It looks fucking epic, man. It looks awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I should actually send you. I got some photos here I can send you too. But no, it's pretty epic. Like, it wasn't the best four-wheeler training, but dude, like we had some awesome epic adventures and trips, and for my older dogs, it set them up for success. I've never placed top in any race, truthfully, but like, I've never felt like anything we've seen in a race. My team, especially the old dogs. Sadly, though, this Iditarod, a lot of my older team is probably won't be on the Iditarod team because they're kind of old. They've had the same 22 dogs for the past 9 years, and I'm just now having some litters and stuff. But that is also a regret thing too, right there, because those being up in that type of country, that was like awesome, badass training. Two Rivers has that too, but there's something that makes a team that when I was up there and I had to groom all the trails myself, I did tours, I had to groom with a dog team. I didn't own a snow machine. So I just like had a couple tires and stuff. So I had a strong team, but yeah, there's parts of me that, one day I want to design I want to be out in an area, either Alaska range or back up in the Brooks range where I can do that again, type of deal. And that's where April comes in and train up there. How's that? Does it sound good?
Yeah. You're sounding pretty good. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Springtime up there sounds amazing. I know like Matt Hall goes up there a good bit, and I know like in the past Paige and Cody from Squid Acres are go up there, go caribou hunting, and a number of mushers love going out there after Iditarod, and or not even hunting, or maybe they're kind of hunting, but really just they want to go play with their dogs in the mountains and the Arctic. And like, what is it? I've never hunted with sled dogs, gone, and it's up here for hunting rules. Like, there's a lot of places where you're not allowed to use any engined vehicles. You can't use like an ATV or anything with a motor to go and get a moose or a caribou in certain management areas in the state. And so having a dog team, boy, oh boy, what a incredible tool to be able to do some of that. So you go out in the Brooks Range, and then in the springtime, like the snow is good for that spring crust, like crust mushing or whatever, right? I mean, that you can kind of go, you don't necessarily need to stay on the trail.
Yeah, in the springtime, yeah. Well, up in North Slope and Coldfoot, the snow is different there. It's a lot more perennial, so we don't get that spring crust until May. But up in the slope, there's not much snow up in the slope. Really, the slope only gets like a couple feet of snow. And a lot of it blows away. So
you're talking about like the northern slope of the Brooks Range?
Yeah, so that's where a lot of us go up and go hunting and stuff. Coldfoot was on the Coldfoot was about 150 miles from where a lot of us do the putting for Brooks Range.
Right. So do you like when you go hunting with a dog team, like, are they quiet? Are they like does the gun when you shoot it, how do they do? Like, I don't know. I feel like there's just so many variables with a dog team and hunting like that. You really have to have it honed in pretty nicely. And then when you don't have you might be in areas where you don't have trees to tie off to. So you got to be, anchor your team, and maybe the snow's good for that. Maybe it's not. Yeah. Talk to me about hunting with dog teams.
Well, so a lot of with hunting with sled dogs, but everybody's a little different on this. Personally, when I'm up going out to caribou with the dogs, I just kind of leave them. I put out my leader hook, I put out my snow hooks, hammer them in to the tundra, and my guys generally, like, after a season of mushing and stuff, and I train my guys to be pretty mellow. In the 440, my guys are kind of laying down this April when everybody else dogs are jumping up and barking. But I like that in my team. My guys know when I pull my snow hook, when I give the command, they can start jumping and barking. But 90% of the time, when we're hooking up and stuff, or we're on the trail and we have the snow hooks in, is to shut up and be quiet and be patient, because they're not burning energy. And so, like in April, when it's 45 above, even like when zero, I put the hooks in, they're all just chilling, and I go walk off, and I'll go walk off after caribou for an hour to 2 hours, and come back to my team and my dogs. Once in a while you got a dog or two that chewed the neckline or whatever, but they're not going nuts, so you got to train them to be able to lead them like that. It does take some training and trust in your dogs. But you got to apply that all season long. Can't all of a sudden, okay, it's hunting season. All right, guys, be quiet. After, well, I'm hunting wabbit right now. But at the same time, you don't want to kill their spirit of hooking up in the team. You don't want to be getting pissed off that they're barking. You want to not kill that spirit, but at the same time, still have a team that knows, like, hey, quiet, and knows when to be patient. Because there is a time and place when, if you're out on the trail, Iditarod, or any race, and you got a situation on your hands, you might have to have team. You can think a lot straighter with their team not barking its head off behind you or dragging the hook. So it's good to have. It looks great on video. It looks great leaving a checkpoint where the team is banging away on their harnesses and stuff. And truthfully, mentally, as a musher, when you're in a race, you're tired out. It's nice to see that your team is actually like barking. But man, for them just to get up, quiet, leave a checkpoint, that means a lot as well.
That's so cool to have a team like that. And we talked about that, Brendan, a good bit about how, people like they seem to really like get a little too stoked. Some people on like, oh, look at this dog team, look great leaving the checkpoint. They were all barking and screaming. You're like, well, I mean, or they get great coming into the checkpoint. They're all barking and screaming and lunging. It's like, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're like the best dog team, like having like you see, Brett's lead dogs. Brett,
Yeah.
Brent with an N. Brent, if you see, but you see his lead dogs and they're just like chilling, vibing, veteran as hell. And I've heard of many of mushers that will train their dogs, like hook them up to go on a run when they're like 2-year-olds, and they'll be in their dog yard and they'll go back in to the house and have like coffee and breakfast and they're all barking. Oh, we're ready to go when you are, coach. And then you just hanging out. Yeah. And then once they kind of mellow out, you come back out. You're like, all right, cool. Like I'll decide when it's time to go,
Yeah.
It's a really powerful tool and then you bring that back to hunting. And gosh, I mean, you just in April, they've already run 3,000 plus miles or whatever, it's 45 degrees. I mean, you're leaving out the camp for a couple hours in the snow. They're just sitting there like loving the sun and the snow. And it's so.
And also one thing is even though if I'm with a group of mushers and we're all camping together, I'm by myself hunting. Sometimes, because again, these are Alaskan Huskies are very competitive, or at least a long distance version of Alaskan Husky or any racing version of Alaskan Husky. It's a very competitive dog mentally. So you have another team with you, it might not work. Because they all of a sudden they see that team, they're like, oh,
right.
Or if the other team isn't trained like that. Yeah. Now, yes, speaking of getting these guys quiet, early season with the 4-wheel, my guys are going fucking ballistic, but like by December, they're a little more mellowed out. Tours help a lot too. Tours teach dogs to be patient. The one thing I can, I've never done in a race, but I can see that I need to train this season, especially for Iditarod with the tours and stuff, is that like, other than teach to be patient, they do kind of teach the dogs though, like, oh, we're in the back end of civilization, we're off the trail, this is where we stop. If you want to leave a checkpoint, you got to train that into the team. But one thing is too, is I hook up in like Crocs and Crocs and my sweatpants a lot of times, even when it's 30 below, because I sweat. I run really hot, so I sweat easily when I start working. And for me to be able to hook up like that, and then I go inside and I'll have another cup of coffee. So I have everybody on the line, booted, jackets on, harnesses on. I'll go have another cup of coffee, and my guys will just like sit there and be quiet. But it takes, you gotta be patient on it. You gotta be patient on it, and you gotta be, it might take you 10 times, 10 different runs to get them to be somewhat mellow. And, you might take and for me, it'll take me a whole hour after hook up my team to get ready to have a cup of coffee, and that's just, how it goes,
Yeah. You say you run hot, and I feel like every time I've ever seen you at a race, you're like hood down, it's like probably too cold to have a hood down, and you just got like the most epic fucking goatee of frost on your face. And I'm sitting there like fully zipped up with like, watching or whatever. And I'm like, man, this guy looks super cold. Like, but I guess I have been in that point where you're like, honestly, like I'm gonna put my head down. I'm pretty hot. But yeah, dude, that you definitely like to feel that Arctic air slap you in the face, it seems like.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I don't know, man. It's also a part of me too. It's just I try not to sweat. So like before I grab a drop bag, like in the few races I've done, before going up to grab drop bags and shit, I'll like get the check, but I'll start stripping down, man. I'll like going up. I ran Quest a lot, so running up Eagle Summit, Rosebud, dude. I'll be on the sled taking off half my shit while my dogs are moving, just to start running. Cause I'll start sweating, and it's better not to get all your gear wet from sweat in the first place. Like you want to be able to, because if shit happens, having a bunch of wet gear because you've been sweating through it ain't gonna do you any good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely something you're always battling. The second you start to feel that, or you look up at the hill and you're like, all right, let's unzip some things here. Yeah. Rosebud and Eagle Summit, those notorious hills there in the Quest, that'll get some beads of sweat going for sure. Brennan, say something. I miss your voice.
Well, I mean, I've been writing down a couple different questions that I have. One thing that I'm not clear on that I want to make sure maybe I can clarify is like in the off season, the way you make money is via the tours, or like do you have other it's because obviously Mushing's not like it's not bringing in lots of money, so I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah, so yeah, I kind of during the 9 months out of the year, the season from like fall to or 7 to 9 months out of the year, I'm doing tours with my dogs, guiding with my team, and trying to save money for summer. And then in the summertime, I've worked on the glacier for 3 seasons. I've worked for Sebastian Schnull and AIE, and then I've done construction work before I even got into sled dog. I did a lot of construction work, and then I've done some other wilderness guiding trips, from packing for hunting guides to rafting or whatever, with clients. So yeah, summer I do whatever I can for money. Like at the moment, I've finished up my last couple. I've been last couple of summers. I've been doing peony, working with on a peony farm, one of the biggest in Alaska. Fun fact: peonies grow from July to August. Any wedding you go to that has peonies as their main flower come from Alaska, because we are the only time during that time of year, the only time are the only area in the whole world that's growing peonies or peonies. About
peonies.
Yeah. There's up on the western side is peonies, and then like you can get like peonies, or there's like 3 different ways you can say it. But so I've been working on that, and then being a flower farmer, man. Like working, it's a lot more work than people think. I'm not just sitting there picking flowers.
I know the only flower farming I've heard of is of the green variety, and met a lot of people that have done marijuana farming, and they all have that same thing where they're like, dude, it's a hard work. And I bet they obviously it's not the same, but it's also got plenty of similarities, I bet.
Oh, dude, I've also done that too, man. In the middle of winter, trimming, and I pretty much have, like, anything I do, I've thrown it back into my dogs. And then guiding was the first time guiding with my dogs, because I've done other guided work and stuff before I got into sled dogs, and been around folks. But until I really started working with Richie and Emily of Wild Things Kennels, my first time ever guiding with those guys. I remember looking at I added up how much they were going to pay me, and I was getting, I was just starting out. I was getting paid kind of low, and I was like, holy shit, this is what I make almost in a week of like construction work, like freaking 40 below, putting on roofs, using a antifreeze drip and like pounding nails, getting up and going back and training dogs and getting going to bed at 1 a.m. and then going back out and going back to work at being up at 5 a.m. to go to work by 7, and I used to do that a lot and then do whatever I could for work. So, I then I got into guiding, and that kind of made, okay, this is how I can make a living with sled dogs and using my dogs. Now, that being said, I enjoy showing people the lifestyle and guiding with my dogs. My favorite type of guiding is more day trips to overnight trips over hour. Even though I do like hour, I just I think people really get on those full day trips and overnight trips. The people really get this is why you do it over like an hour tour. Even though you try to cram as much as you can in an hour, or in the glacier tours, why dog mushing is awesome. But people don't really get it until they've spent like a whole day with the dogs, or like a couple days with the dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. Go ahead, Brennan.
I was gonna say, like, you have yet to mention like your modeling career, man. Like, I mean,
dude,
what's going on here, baby?
Look at
Come
that.
On.
Damn.
Oh yeah, I've done Filson. I still work with Filson. We're actually planning on something in September. And this
Look
is
at this guy.
This is my first shoot with Filson. They had a season or two ago, they had something with this is like back in 2020. No, 2021, sorry. And then 2022 we did another shoot, and Filson,
I saw that.
They've sponsored me, and then they still are. And then they also we're doing another shoot here this fall, or trying to. And then I've done the TV stuff as well. How I started my kennel was working with how I really started my kennel is working with Nat Geo, doing a TV show called Yukon River Run, which is about log rafting, and logging with logs on the Yukon River. And that's how I got the money at 17, 18 years old to start my kennel. And I wish I did better things with my money, but you're 18 and you've been poor your whole life. It's like, oh shit, I got money and I got dogs, but I wish I did more with it. Then, I'd be somewhere different. But hey, you live and you learn,
Yeah, I saw about this river run show on your website, and I was curious about it. Like, dude, just like hearing you just mouth off like 5 minutes of like what you've done, like your resume is insane, dude. You got to be like pretty super handy, I'm guessing, with having done construction and all this different types of guiding, and then you're out there like you're clearly probably an accomplished river rat too. And man, you're just like like you're like living out there, dude. You're living. You're legit, dude. You're outside like pretty much all the time, it sounds like.
Yeah, but I still got a lot to learn. I'm just frank.
Wait, how old are you?
I'm gonna be 27 in September.
27.
Yeah.
Dude, all right, real quick, just to make sure I'm clear on things. I've been over here snooping around on your modeling career. And,
bring it back to that, baby. Let's go.
I gotta go back here. Just, this is not a show. This is not about mushing whatsoever. But the boots here are what you guys were talking about earlier.
Oh,
right?
Dude, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, those are some bunny boots, man. I did rock them for a little bit. That was that was in Two Rivers, that photo, and that was behind my property right there. I cut a trail. That was part of my tour loop, and so I cut a trail for them. They let me keep the pants, but the funny thing is though, when I was I don't know. Well, hopefully Filson doesn't see this video. But the funny thing is with that jacket, as I remember, me and Jeff Reed did that catalog together. So uh, we went to the big China and did like these loops, and our teams were passing each other, and they got some epic shots. But anyways, that I remember mushing with that jacket on, and I thought to myself, I really hope nobody in Two Rivers sees me with this thing on, because it was kind of ridiculous, man. I mean, it's something you wouldn't want to wear. I mean, it's awesome. It's a badass jacket. If you're if you own cattle and you're a cowboy or own a ranch, that's like, if you're one of those guys off Yellowstone, that jacket would fit.
Oh yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Look, the when I take guests out on the glacier, you know, they're like, hey, you know, is this going to be good enough? I'm like, look, you know, it's not about if you're warm or you're cold. It's about, do you look good? All right.
Yeah.
And, you know, you look good in that.
Yeah, dude. No, I do. It was epic. I mean, it was, oh man, but I credited how I got into that Filson thing, with my friend, Tonya Blomstedt. He's a Norwegian adventure musher. And yeah, she helped me get to that, and then they just stuck with me. You know, we've always just done some shit together, and yeah, it was good. It's awesome, but it's kind of funny, man. I never saw myself as a model or social media person. Like, I don't know. There's like parts of me that I was like, man, how the hell did I get here? Like, you know, it just, you know, I do credit a lot of my success has come from my dogs and just sticking with the lifestyle, man. Stick with mushing and trying to make it work. It's I do credit a lot of that to just sticking through the plan, and it, you know, no matter how tough it's gotten with owning dogs, it is tough, especially as a younger person. You know, in this day and age with prices of money and stuff, like, man, like, just sticking with the hope, you know, it's done pretty well for me. But also I put a lot of effort into everything too, you know, and whatnot.
Absolutely. Brennan, if you have something, go for it.
Yeah,
I got plenty to say, but yeah.
I've got several questions. I'm ultimately kind of like leading up to, I'm curious about what your season's going to be leading into that Iditarod, but and I think you may have hit on this when we went through some like connectivity issues, but your dog line, I think you were saying some of it may have come from Lance, but can you clarify that?
So yeah, my first dog, Annie, and she's been in a lot of my she was like my main, I bred her to some of Lance's stuff, but I bought her for $600 and a couple of cords of firewood from Lester Earhart out of Tanana. And she was out of his dog yard, and she at the time was pregnant and came with a litter, and I raised them, and they were all Earhart lines. But then a good chunk of my lines afterwards were out of Lance when I worked for him, of course. And I bred Annie like twice. I bred to Rev, Lance's dog Rev, with Annie, and then one of his ninjas. For those that know the black dog lines, kind of like Lance's last of like his really good bloodlines before he got sick again and stuff, or before he sold those guys. But I was like, kind of like the end of his career type of deal, you know, 2014 to by about 24-18 before he sold them to Musher in Norway, and then had what dog he had now before he passed. And then out of that, I had some Joe Garney lines, and then me and Riley Dyke bred one of his females and a dog from Matthew Failer, and they're kind of like my newer dogs I have now that I use a lot of, and then that are like my main team. So me and him like split that litter, and they're like some of my best leaders in the group. So I think yeah, they were awesome. And it was out of Riley's dog Pearl, and he's bred also. I think some of his younger dogs, yearlings, he has now are out of her second or third litter she's had. And after that, I bred to Ryan Olson and one of her dogs, and another dog from Crunch that Riley owned, and then Noah Prairie owned. And I think that was out of Mitch. I think it's a Mitch dog.
Damn, dude,
And,
you got the whole fucking
dude,
scene.
I'm
yeah, you're
seriously-
not dropping some names, bro. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so yeah, I got so my guys, I got a pretty, and then Joe Garney in there too. I think I never said, I don't know if I said that. And then Baker, I got Baker lines as well. And then I've bred stuff that's like second generation to Annie that I consider my own stuff. But then if you break them down, they're like Baker lines and Mackey lines and Earhart lines. And and then I got 2 litters on the way. So
wow,
I got 2 litters on the way. I mean, because again, I've had 22 dogs for the past almost 8 years. I mean, I've had upwards of 25, and I've sold some dogs, but I've kept most of my team, so they're getting kind of old. And so I've had these next 2 litters, and then I plan on breeding another dog in next spring after Iditarod, and that'll be pretty much it for a few, 5 years or so. I say that now, who knows what I'll say later, but that'll be it for a while, because I'll probably have 50 dogs for a bit, but I'm prepared for that. I've been having dogs for a long time, so that's something I've mentally prepared myself, but as well as a lot of those dogs too are gonna be retiring in a few years. So they're they're my babies, man. These are my adventure buddies. I've had them. Those 22 have been with me through the thick and thin. And I was I have a hard time even retiring dogs and giving them to people. Cause it's man, I got a lot of memories of those guys.
Yeah, for some mushers that's easier than others. The more dogs you have, the easier it is to let one go when they're retirement age. And you're really, I think it sounds like you're really close with your dogs, and man. So we're looking forward to Iditarod, and dude, it's gonna be, I'm so stoked for you, dude. You're gonna love it. And what's your team? So your team's young. It sounds like you got kind of a young team.
Not really.
Oh, okay. No, because you were saying the older dogs that you wish you would have taken maybe a couple years ago on the trail.
Yeah. No, I mean, there'd be a handful of those guys on the team, but I guess they're not that old, but I think a good majority of that team I'll have, for what I have as a pool right now, are between the ages. I got some 2-year-olds. I got about 6 of those guys, and after that, I got another probably 4 4-year-olds, and then 3 4-year-olds, and then another handful of 6-year-olds, and a handful of 8-year-olds to choose from. So it's
nice. Okay. Mixed bag.
So mixed bag, but it's more 6-year. Actually, if I think about it now, it's more 6-year-olds. So that's why I'm doing the 2 breedings. So they're gonna be back-to-back puppies being born here in the next week and 10 days or so. But it's gonna be a mixed bag. I'm excited for Iditarod. I mean, it's been a dream, and since I was a kid about running it, and it's part of the whole career. Isn't though also it's not the end all be all to my mushing career is to just run the Iditarod, but it's one of the aspects, the building blocks that I wanted to add to my career as a dog musher.
For sure. Go ahead, Brendan.
Yeah.
So, okay, I've got two questions. I'm going to start with, you talk about Iditarod being kind of a childhood memory for you, or just it's instilled in you. I'm curious, do you have any fun stories or anything that stands out about, your time before being now this is your season where you're going to be doing the race, but like what stands out in your head about the race prior to like, this year where you're going to be racing it?
And also I'll add to that question is like, including your dad who ran it in 1981 and 83 and stories from him, or maybe just you growing up and watching Lance dominate or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a big part was my dad's stories. He lived pretty hard with sled dogs, as in like, he was traveling, he had traveling with dogs, used them for trapping dogs, like pretty much used them for subsistence. And his only 2 races he's ever done was the Iditarod. And and then after that, he's traveled a lot with the team. He's done some serious trips. He spring camps, meaning where he just lets breakup happen. So he travels to where he can have breakup happen. So he spent a lot. So that was a big part of also like last year I did the Kobuk 440, and that was a huge motivation, was hearing his stories. And I have my brother, because my dad got around too. We're all I'm one out of 4 sons, and we're all from different moms. But one of my brothers that was close growing up, he's from Kotzebue and stuff. So it was awesome, and then my dad traveled there a lot and spent a lot of time on the Western coast. That was a big place that he loved to spend with his dogs. And he told me stories of that, traveling with the dog team. And that's what motivated me to begin to get a dogs. And then growing up out in the bush and with him and stuff. And then of course my parents were divorced, and when I was in Anchorage or Fairbanks watching the Quest start and the Iditarod start, when I lived as a little kid in Nome, I had some early memories for, my mom taking me to the finish up in line in Nome. I can't remember who won or whatever, or how long ago that was, but and then so, in this Alaska being a big part of my life, and that's what kind of motivated me with this Iditarod coming up. This rookie year is like 9 years of work is going towards this rookie run. And, it's finally for me. It feels like it's finally going to happen for me because, that's what's just always been the driving force to all I've done is like, all right, I'm going to do Iditarod. It's taken 9 years, so I feel pretty grateful to finally be able to sign up for it now.
Dude, I just like, I know how like hard your lifestyle is. I don't know intimately, but I think I have a pretty good idea. And I think you're just going to have a blast on that Iditarod trail, dude. I feel like it's going to be like, even if it's like super hard, I feel like you're just going to have a good time, man. It's just such an incredible journey. And now I'm like, all right, give me another PBR. I might just sign up for next for 21st with one of these races coming up, man. Yeah, I'm really stoked on what you've accomplished and like, how was the Kobuk?
Dude, that was probably out of any race or mushing thing I've done. That was probably the toughest fucking thing I've done with a dog team. Top 3, like toughest, like I don't know, maybe not top 3, but toughest things I've experienced in life was like at Kobuk. I made some mistakes, but it was like the first big boy race. I'm shit, man. Kobuk, I'm super happy I did that before I did a ride. If any rookies listen to this, man, if you can do Kobuk before I did a ride, do it. I mean, haven't done run on Iditarod yet, but from what I feel like a lot of one thing I'm blessed with is I have a lot of good mentors and like friends that I've talked to a lot, and a lot of them have top guys who are in the top of the field. They helped me with like Kobuk and whatnot, but it was tough. I made some stupid moves, but I'm glad I got that out of the way there that I did in Kobuk and Iditarod. I've changed up when I'm doing this winter, and I think in my career field to make sure stuff that's like that doesn't happen You know, I've learned there's a lot of hard lessons in that race. I learned it was a tough race. It was slow. That race is generally kind of fast, but everyone was going slow. I think Jesse Holmes, who won it, was the one going fastest, and we were pedaling. I think we were doing like 8 miles an hour, and I was going. There's times when we're going like 6.5, 7 miles an hour. Everybody, you know, and a few times Jesse peaked on tracker like 8, but it was a tough race. I'm glad I did that, but man, I screwed up. My team shut down on me 20 miles outside of Kotzebue. That was super embarrassing. But the biggest thing was shit, man. I didn't train for that type of run that I tried to do with the team. We'd done long runs, but not enough before that. And I didn't have the best, like, after Quest had the best training because of tours and business with that. But I should have been smart. I knew better. I really did. I really wish out of not No Attack. Norvik. At Norvik, I wish I took a 4 instead of an hour and a half, but my team came in looking real good. Real good. I think being a team that they've never seen past 300 miles, and never seen open country, they've seen the open country before up in the slope, being stressed like that. I think mentally something like they're like, screw you, man. You screwed up here. We're taking a break for 5 hours. Physically, though, when we got up and got going, one of the race marshal told me, Ed Eaton said I had the fast, and Paul Hansen and Ed Eaton were telling me I had one of the faster runs in that 20-mile stretch back to Kotzebue than anybody else. So physically, my dogs were like, okay, but I fucked up with them making the mistake. I should have known better, but I got in my head. But that was good. I feel like I'm glad it happened then than it did, and I did something like in Iditarod. It was like that. So it was a good race. I also overslept an Ambler my first time through from Cayenne Ambler. At the Ambler, I was going to take a 4. And I ended up oversleeping, and Ryan Renton woke me up. Ryan with his nice big old smile. Hey, Lauro. And I'm like, I'm almost scrambling, getting ready, and fucking Jesse's already in there, and I'm just leaving there. I just felt like a jackass and was beating myself up. I had an awesome run. I mean, hey, you know what? I was already in the back of the pack anyways. This is how I was running. Shit, my dogs had good enough rest, but yeah, I learned a lot. I feel like I had some screw ups. It really like chat my ass for a month because I felt it was like a big. Other than like it took a week or 2 weeks to kind of recover from Kobuck because of all the running and kicking I did. Like my right leg was swollen up real bad when I remember sitting up there, but it really chat my ass about that. And then Jesse Holmes, me and him sat down at Chilcoots, and he's like, man, you gotta put some better effort into it. Me and him are good buddies, so I was like, all right, this come season, that really made my motivation of like, clearing my schedule and just focus on racing. I'm gonna make it no matter what. I'm gonna make this work and not run a million tours and just make this work. But long story short, yeah, it was awesome. Kobuck was awesome. The people, the community, the most welcoming I've ever had in any race, and I want to go back just because of that. If that was in, I want to go back for that, But yeah, but anyways, yeah, everything's good.
Sean, I'm not sure we can hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry, I put my thing on mute, but that's awesome, man. It's really cool to hear you talk about that and then to also like appreciate that you're like, yeah, I fucked up, like, yeah. And also, dude, a lot of times, like, it's not like it's a reasonable thing to think like, I think my dogs can do this, because like there's this fine line between, all right, maybe this isn't what they can do, but also, just because they haven't done it before doesn't mean they can't do it. So yeah, a lot of people are pretty much every musher at some point has been like, hey, you guys have never done this before, but I think you got this, right? And sometimes they don't, and they did, and they only took a 5-hour break, 20 miles from the finish line, and I think it sounds like it ended as a positive experience, and yeah, man, I mean, I don't know, it's good. It's a good thing to say, hey, I would have done things differently, and man, what a great lesson to learn for Iditarod, and I would love to go up there, man. That race, everybody said that. They were like, this made Iditarod look like a vacation. I'm like, what, really? And like, yeah, so it's a lot of long runs there,
Yeah. Oh, but dude, it's some fucking wild country, man. Like, it was like, this is Mushing and then I could see like my dad spent a lot of time in Selawik, and he was excited about having me up there. And it took a lot out of me. Like, it's first time I ever like, holy shit. I work my ass off. I'm a big guy, but I'm always running. I'm always ski pulling a lot, pedaling. So I got to keep up with all the little midgets out there, or try, but,
yeah. No, I'm just saying there's some small mushers, DD Johnro. It's like $120, and then you're, probably over 200, and it's like, yeah, well,
and and I like to add, for anybody that's interested in doing Kobuk, on their website, they have like a certain time that you got to finish by, but I wish they'd mentioned this, is you got like at least 30 hours from when the first guy finished to when you got to be declared official finisher. You might miss out the banquet, but you'll be declared official finisher. So I just want to put that out there. Any team, but if you're all in Norvik or something like that, or like at Solwick, like if you're way back, yeah, they're gonna pull you because you're not being competitive. But just to let any rookie musher know they're in Kobuk and they got to take extra rest, don't stress about that, because and you take that extra rest, take that extra 4, man. Like, the dogs will appreciate that. Don't screw up like I did.
Nice. I appreciate
for those.
I appreciate I'm just saying, like, I appreciate you being candid with that. It sounds like there was just an opportunity to learn from decision making, and like we've all learned the hard way, so to speak. So I just appreciate that you're willing to share that with us. My follow-up to that is, so you've had, you've done, if I'm correct, you've done the Copper Basin, you've done the Kobuk, you've done the Yukon Quest. Are there some other ones that I'm dropping as well?
This is 2 over 200, 2 over 100. I haven't really done anything like crazy. So those were just like, I've run Quest multiple times. That was just handy. And, I've always was just working, this is like, to build up to nowadays where I have the confidence to run more races, granted, like, I still like going into Iditarod. I mean, I still like, some days I'm like, man, I wish I ran more races than just one race a year. But I've also like lived remote a lot too. So living remote like that and doing other adventures with my dogs, one race was all I could muster, and then putting all my money into it. So going into this coming season, I'll be running a couple extra races before Iditarod to mentally prepare my dogs and make sure I got all my gear intact. But no, this all local stuff in Fairbanks, so nothing crazy.
So yeah, so on that same note though, I'm curious, what is your like upcoming plan for the season from a race perspective?
Well, first part, I'll be doing Copper Basin. Well, no, excuse me. First part, I'll be doing the solstice race, either myself or my handler or my kennel. Most likely just be my kennel, so like my partner and handler. I got a buddy's wedding during the Ace race, so I can't like a group wedding, so I can't go do that one, sadly. But I'll probably go out there and train in a way. So once you see that, it's nice to see all the other mushers, but once you've done the highway, like put a couple hundred miles on the highway, you're like, or even like 100 miles, you're like, yeah, I'm good on the highway experience. I know some of you guys, some mushers live there.
I definitely have spent several hundred miles on that godforsaken highway, and yeah, it is understandable. It's like for the casual listener, I'm sure that you're probably turned this off already. You're probably been like, these guys have been talking about some really obscure shit, but yeah, the Denali Highway, man. It's a highway. It's literally, it's a highway that's just like a dirt road that's covered in snow. So it's not very stimulating for anyone involved, except for when you first get there. You get there, you're like, this is a new place for the dogs and the people. You're like, oh, we don't train here typically. All right, let's get out there. The dogs get super stoked. But yeah, it is kind of boring. Some people would say that boredom is actually something you got to train your dogs for. It's you're on the Iditarod, you're on the Yukon River for I don't know how many miles, but it's a lot of them, and it's not very exciting sometimes. And getting the dogs used to just running on a treadmill, kind of, so to speak, that's a good mental edge, because the dogs love having those winding, technical, sporty trails. That's exciting, that's stimulating. But getting in this big wide trail can be kind of boring for everybody. And so yeah, it's hard to go out of the highway all winter long. It's like, all right, well, if you got good training elsewhere, you take it.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, I got training wise, we got plans for this year. I kind of want to focus a lot more camping trips. I enjoy that with my dogs, and I've always been super busy with tours, so it's been hard to do more of that. But then one thing too is we got some plans with some groups of mushers to do a training run in an area, and have a snow machine break trail ahead of us type of deal in January. And then along with more racing and stuff to prepare for that. But also, I love traveling a lot more, and open up some trails here in Two Rivers as well. But yeah, and so other than the solstice, I either Connect 200 or Copper Basin 300. I truthfully really like to do the Connect 200 more than Copper. I did Copper last year and I had a blast, but I want to see some new trails, and who knows? Truthfully, I like to say, who knows how long these races will be around for. So Copper is really strong, but I want to do Connect and check out that area. And that goes through part of the Iditarod trail. So I'm like, all right, might as well have that experience. And then after that, I'm thinking heavily on going to Canada and either doing the 250 or the 450 in Canada.
The Quest.
Quest. Yeah, the Quest 250 or 450 in Canada. I want to see some new trail. Quest has always been one I really hope they do the 1,000 again, because I was like, when I was starting out mushing, that was like my first 1,000 I want to do was Quest, and then do Iditarod. And I really wish if I future like my present self now, I wish I could tell past self, like, hey, get your ass in gear, get those 500 miles in the new Quest, long time ago, just so I can have done Quest, because who knows if they're gonna have that 1,000 going on again. But sadly, I hate leaving the Alaska side of things. Not signing up for them because just because of Alaska and all, but I want to see some another part of the quest trail. So I want to go to the 450, and how they have the setup, how they're scheduling the setup, how the race will be set up. This like the resting and stuff. It'd be a great training run for the dogs, and I got a buddy down there I can stay with a dog yard, so that's great. And after that, just Iditarod, So, and then after Iditarod, I want to go back up to Kobuk to have another shot at it if I can.
Nice.
Let's see how I feel after Iditarod. I could be like, you know what, I'm done. I just want to hang out and finish up the tour season. Or it could be like, you know what, I had a blast. I want to do Kobuk,
Sounds like a pretty busy schedule, honestly. Maybe I have the non-mushing perspective here, but like, I mean, I just wrote down Solstice. You're not doing the Ace race, but they're going to be in it. You're definitely trying to do the Kinnick, but you might do the Copper Basin. You're doing the Quest and the Kobuk and the Iditarod. There's just a lot going on there.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, don't quote me on all that yet, but that's just like that's my dream plan there. Let's put that to paper and throw the paper away and yeah, dream big. Aim big, miss small type of stuff. But yeah, no, that's what I hope to get all that done. At least want to do Quest and then Iditarod and then Kobuk. Like I really want to do Kobuk again because I just what happened in Kobuk last April really chapped my ass, and it's more of an ego thing than anything else. I just want to have this. But I hope to say I only going to run that thing twice, but I want to run it more. But if I only have one more shot at doing it one last time, I wanted to have a better shot. I don't want to end not ever doing that again with how I finished last year. It's more of a pride thing, but also because I love the community and they put on. There's a lot that they did at the checkpoints. I guess not a lot. Well, other than like awesome hospitality, like some of the best food and shit. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me the most was, holy shit, they provide you hot water, like boiling water. And I'm like, any race could do this. This is not that hard. I'm like, this is awesome. I didn't have to touch. I didn't even light my cooker up at all. And I'm like, this is probably the most badass thing I thought about that whole race. Was like, oh my God, we just got instant hot water for us. Like, this is awesome. I didn't touch my cooker at all the whole race.
God, it's such a nice luxury. You'll see some of that on some of those checkpoints in Iditarod, but yeah, I mean, I totally get the like the Wade Mars philosophy of like, I want the checkpoints all day. Checkpoints. He's because he's dude, if you have boiling water, like, dude, your dogs are eating like a sick meal in like, I mean, not even 10 minutes, and where otherwise, I don't know. Maybe I don't have like the fanciest cooker or whatever, but yeah, it's like it cuts your time in half for these meals.
Oh, dude. I mean, like, yeah, he could be sitting there for 40. Remember Copper Basin? Freaking 40 minutes waiting at sourdough just to get my damn meal cooked, because I had to boil snow. And it's like, I was thinking after Kobuk, I was like, my God, Copper Basin needs a drum, a 55-gallon drum there. Freaking what the hell? I hate to talk shit about I never, I shouldn't talk shit at all. I should just be great. I really hate this mentioning that, but I wish Copper Basin was like, they provided sourdough. It would not be hard. I've cut a lot of 55-gallon drums with it, axing them all for the cooked fish for dog food. And it's not that hard if anybody in Copper Basin's listening right now. But it's I wish that I was like, my God, this is awesome. Like that boiling water, you feed your dogs instantly and then they get to sleep. I mean, I know like some mushers, some teams, like they'll eat after like 40 minutes, but like my guys eat real well. Granted, I haven't pushed really hard yet in a race, but My guys eat really well, where they just instantly they'll eat as much as you know as much as I throw at them.
That's awesome, man. Well, look, dude, it's been like an hour and a half. I don't want to, we could ask you
No, yeah.
questions for like another hour probably, but Brandon, what do you look like you have something?
I got just a few more, and
just like 9 more questions, dude. That's
no,
it.
no, no,
like
no.
maybe like.
All right, so I want to touch on, because we've had this conversation in other episodes, but I want to touch on your experience at the Quest last year, and like, I don't know if you don't want to go there, that's also fine too. But like, whatever you would be willing to say, like, I'm just kind of curious about, like, we've had Sebastian on. I don't know if you listened to his episode or not, but he's kind of talked a little bit about being a race marshal, or not a race marshal, but like being part of the decision making with, like the back end of the race and such. And, I was just kind of, I just did a search on you, and it just, like, the article popped up, but I was like, I'm curious about that. I wanted to ask you about it.
You know, that one, yeah, it really sucked. I don't think of it too much. I have nothing against the Quest board, but I do have nobody. The mushers fired. I had a lot of backing from some top guys, but the mushers pretty much fired that marshal because what happened to me. But he was, there was a lot. I wish the Alaska Quest, the Alaska side of the Quest treated a lot of mushers other than me that last season wasn't great at all. Like, I hate to say, because I do try to support them, but I had a few, like, other than me, there was just some stuff that they've treated like on the 80. There were some incidents there. It's like, shit, guys, it's a freaking fun run on the 80s. After hearing that, I was more chapped about. I'm not going to bring up who and what said what, but there's just like some stuff there that was just like, shoot, man, like, it's an 80-mile run, guys. You're trying to bring back and say this is a fun run, but don't treat people like that. Getting mushers getting pressured out of checkpoints, and then my deal, I was not that far back from anybody. There was only 9. Really, there was only 9 of us. I came in, I had no warning at all. No warning that Marshall wasn't there. Mark Nordman would have flown in, and any other Marshall would have been there. And it was a load of crap what happened to me, and it doesn't fare well for how the Quest is image. Yeah, I'll still sign up for the Quest. I have nothing against them, but if they're trying to bring back, they're trying to encourage mushers, especially new mushers and our people. Like, I have more of a backbone. I'm like, all right, well, that shit happens, it's life. But I was pretty pissed. And I had no warning, and they let me check in. I checked in. They didn't warn me until that. And I made a 72-mile run beforehand, and we did that in like 9 hours. That was pretty good for 72 miles. Especially, I fell asleep and hit a fucking tree and lost my team, and right at Medicine Lake, and for an hour. We were rolling, but I was just all loopy. But I wasn't lollygagging any checkpoints. I was taking a bunch of 4.5 shit. And not lollygagging at all. Like, I was doing 112 miles in 24 hours. And you look at Iditarod, with the schedule I was running, Martin Boozer the season, 2021 season, Martin Boozer he was in Nikolai the same amount of time that it took me to get to Central again, 300 miles, both 300 miles into that area. I remember at the finishers meeting saying, well, would you have pulled Martin Boozer for running a puppy schedule? Like, I was the only guy in that whole race that didn't run 1,000 miles. And I was trying to run, and though Grant and I had the vet team, they sent me an awesome letter. They all signed off on it, saying how my team looked really great. I had 13 dogs on the line. and were ready to go. They were my team was building up momentum. And then I remember Brent Sass, he was on the phone with me and he was like, my run times and his were just an hour off from each other to 2 hours where I like camped or something like that. It wasn't like this dramatic amount of time away from anybody, so it's like and then that Marshall, I hate to say it, but that guy was a dick. I was a massive dickhead. This in general, they fart. I don't like that guy, but and just the vibes. Like he got fired from Open North American because he was, a lot of people came to me and said they've had incidents with his Marshall, so it was not like his first thing. It wasn't like he's a new Marshall in it. He got fired from Quest 2008. They kicked him out of there, midway through the race. So, I don't know. I hate being that guy that whines about it, but that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah, but I mean,
listen. I felt like it's something that's worth asking, and I think it's fair to go there. And I mean, Sean, say whatever you were gonna say.
All right, look, all I'm saying is like, people should be like allowed to be criticized and it not even be that big of a deal. Like, dude, how many times do you sit down with your homies and you kind of shit on your friends a little bit? You're like, dude, yeah, my buddy Jacob, he just like can't figure out this and that. And you're like, but at the end of the day, we love Jacob or whoever this fictional Jacob is. It's like, this Marshall maybe didn't do a great job in your eyes, but like, it's not like we don't think he's a bad guy necessarily. He maybe just made some decisions that weren't in the best interest of Mushing and of the Quest, and I think that something is super important to remember within the Mushing community that's really essential moving forward nowadays is that we're all in this like together. We all want like these events to continue going, and we're like, yes, there are philosophical differences, but we're on the same team here. We want, but like, it's okay for that. We push each other a little bit and maybe we critique this and critique that. We all want the same thing, which is, the dogs to be well taken care of and to get out there on the trail and it be, fair and well organized and yeah. So, hopefully I'm betting that, next year, these situations, if they come up again, they're going to be handled probably a little bit differently. And it's been like, dude, there's a long list of people that have been withdrawn from a race. And then you like, look, 2 years ago, someone was in the same position and they got to finish. And it's like, it's a really tricky situation. And,
well, I guess some of it seems subjective is where like the opinions of these so-called officials or whatever, it's like it's a fine line of objectiveness.
There's not like there's not like a hard data, it's kind of like, all right, this guy, is he like being competitive? It's like, well, look, we got a field of 9 people. It's like, all right, if you had a field of 30 mushers, this is, and which is the case in years past. So, it's tricky. It's just like there's a lot of variables and they're always changing. And yeah, man, I just wish that there's a good chunk of drama within the mushing community. I'm not saying that that's what we've been talking right now, but just like I want everybody to like be homies and still like disagree. You should be able to disagree, but still at the end of the day, like we're all in this together. We all want this, and it's I feel like I'm singing Kumbaya right now, but like that is true though. Like that's what
I want. Like, I don't want people to be like, don't run the Quest. I love the Quest. I want to see the full 1,000 go back. I really hate that both sides are bickering. And now it's like, see the other section of that freaking trail, I got to choose whether I'm going back to Alaska or going back to Canada. And then, it really sucked because with that 300, because I remember before I even left Central to go home, I took the tracker again, and said person that was ahead of me they were just cresting cresting Eagle Summit, getting up top, which is only a 25-mile run, like 5.5, 6 hours later or whatever. And I'm thinking, oh my Jesus Christ, I would have been taken off by now type of deal. I would have not been that far behind, and, I was kind of gaining a little bit on the people. But anyways, dropping that subject, it's, I hate, I hate that I even bring this up now, but I respect your guys' interest in it and question. It is like, as part of my career, I'm in a news article, pop up my name, but oh boy, it's like, I guess sometimes as this generation of a musher, a part of me what kind of chats my ass about this sort of thing isn't what happened to me. It's that it feels like mushing still has a long history left. But part of me really is like, dude, we gotta this can't be a good old boys club anymore, man. This is a different era, it's a different age. It has to be, the Quest Canada is making a good effort with that. Alaska Quest is, they're doing good, but anyone that did it right. It's just, I want to see it continue and people encourage, or at least in the racing side of mushing, and see it develop into awesomeness. We got so many new outlets that would make mushing great, from this podcast to other venues that, but then stuff like what happened to me as a rookie doesn't look great. Because I know at my heart, and I remember yelling at whoever was the co-marshal at the checkpoint. I didn't yell, but I told him, I'm running a good schedule, and that marshals agreed with me. But at the end of the day, we gotta, it's like I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I hope my rambling and everybody kind of gets what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, I think I have a good idea of the picture that you're painting, and obviously, like anyone going through whatever it is, like trying to accomplish something for their first time, and then like feeling like you're doing a good job, and like then being told that it's not good enough, like that would be hard no matter what it is that you're doing. So yeah, I think you've painted a good picture there to lighten the load, because I do want to. I think Sean brought up, like, we're probably getting closer to 2 hours now, but that's a good. I'm still like, this is fun. It's fun. So to wrap things up, I have just a few things I want to hit. The first thing is I want to circle back to the fact that you worked with Lance Mackey, right? You got to have a good story, or there's got to be something, some sort of wisdom that he left you with, or just if there's anything about your experience of working with him and anything like that, I'd love for you to share that.
People can say what they want about Lance. That guy struggles with addiction and stuff. But the one thing I want to put this out on the air with Lance is that Lance Mackey, when I was there, it was, when you see is what you get. But one thing is, the dogs, he took care of those dogs. Him and Pato, Raylan, they took care of those dogs. And sometimes people say some negative. You can find people come up with some BS. This is like telephone or whatever. Oh, something about Lance or whatever. But one thing is, no matter what he was going through, I learned so much from that guy with dogs that I've applied now, and I wish I'd worked with him longer before he got things. But the one thing is, man, he always, somehow, that guy pulled it out of his ass somehow, but he always had food. That's the gear we need, and he did it. He and one thing I've learned from him, I learned a lot from him that I don't think I would have gotten at other kennels. Was that guy had some freaking grit. Like, when shit was going wrong, he made things work, and it stuck with me, because I've had some tough moments too. mushing and fucking. I've had negative $200 in the bank account type of deal, and it got tough. But I remember watching this last Iditarod movie, and Brent was having this stuff with his teeth, and he said, "I'm channeling Meadow Lance," and I thought, you know what? I've done that a lot too, and even after I got done work for him, he's fished with me, him and his family. Jen, I knew Jen, his wife, and I knew the kids when they were first born. And I knew his wife, not wife, but his domestic partner real well, practically his wife. But, and she was real tough and she kept him together real well. I knew it was real tough when she passed away and him with the kids. So, and one thing I do regret, because I got busy with life, that I never had a moment to go over to Lance and say, "Hey, what's up?" Because that was a big, he helped me a lot, and I struggled, and he saw me like work, and I also worked another job, and I was taking care of my dogs, and which is, it was awesome. It was a good experience, and it was not when this was like tail end of his career, where he didn't have a lot of money, so it was also a good sign of like, hey, racing can work, but you got to have some other income with the racing. So, or there's other ways to do about it, but it can work. And if you stick through your fucking dream and you make it work, like, even going to this Iditarod now, like, Channel Minor Lance would like, don't wish I had X, Y, and Z going into fall training, but if I got to make it work with a 4-wheeler, no brakes, I'll do it, type of deal or whatever. Like I remember him telling me those stories too with his first quest run and not feeding the best, all the fancy stuff, or just feeding fish the whole season and then fish on quest and still winning, and it's just like
that's crazy.
Fanciest dog food, shit. One guy was telling me how Lance had like 20,000 fish he bought from Greg Taylor, because that's all he can afford at the time, and and made it work. So I learned pretty much what I learned from Lance was you can grit through the tough, and and one thing I always said, if Lance had $1 million, I don't think that guy would have been happy. I think what made Lance was how tough how resilient through the tough times, and that's what kept him motivated. I remember talking to that with Riley Dyke on the glacier, because we both knew Lance. Riley had some dogs from Lance, and that's how I kind of first met Riley Dyke and Luther Burr. Was that when I was working with Lance, but I never got to hang out with them because I was busy that winter, and they were busy slaving away over at Sven's. But yeah, man, Lance was quite the character, but I have a lot of respect for that guy, and he was close. It was awesome. It was a good stepping stone. I was like 18 when I worked for him, so it was like right out of high school, and I'm like, this is awesome.
That's awesome. Man. I love it. Sean, you got anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think so. It's cool to hear some Lance stories, and I'm pumped. I'm pumped to have gotten to hang out with Laura with you for a little bit, and yeah, man, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll talk a little bit once we stop recording about maybe show up to Two Rivers and hang out with you and Riley at some point this winter. Who knows? But yeah, man, thanks for sharing all your. Dude, I feel like I only got like 2% of the story still after 2 hours.
Yeah,
God, I feel like we kind of jumped all over the place, and I still, but it was cool, man. Thanks for talking with us, dude.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Brandon.
Well, I was just gonna say, we usually like to give everyone a chance to like promote themselves, or if I don't know if there's an opportunity for people to whatever, but just give you the floor if you have anything you want to say related to promoting yourself, or just like
your website, your Instagram, whatever, or Filson. If you want to say a Filson line, go for it.
Are you trying to do underwear modeling, things like that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. My next shoot's with Calvin Klein. Yeah, fuck yeah, no, yeah, my it's gonna be back in. I gotta redo my website, but my website is Skookum, and Skookum is Skookum expeditions.com. And little tidbit for those who don't know what Skookum means. This comes from an old term. I forgot where originally, but it came from like during was spread out around the gold rush time, but it means solid, strong. And you say, "Oh, that dog right there. That dog's Skookum." I remember Lance saying that, and my dad saying something like that, and I'm like, that would be an awesome kennel name. And so that's a little tidbit there. But anyways, yeah, Skookum Expeditions, and that's Skookum expeditions.com. And if you want to book a tour or reach out to us, and then yeah, and then my Instagram, I'm pretty active on, and same with Facebook's my name. I guess I need to start putting more on my kennel page on my Facebook, but then on my Instagram, it's my name. That's Lauro, and it's Lauro _Eklund, Eklund. And then, yeah, it's another way to reach out and find me as well. And yeah, and then, yeah, of course, big shout out to Filson, the sponsor, and all my dog sponsor, a few of my dog sponsors and kennel sponsors there. But yeah, Filson's like one of my bigger sponsors at the moment. So big shout out to those guys.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on the podcast, and good luck this season. We'll be rooting you on, and can't wait to hear some stories on the back end of the year.
All right. Hey, sounds good. Hey, really? This is awesome, guys. It was fun to hang out with both of you guys. Yeah, you guys are welcome anytime. You guys pop your heads up to Two Rivers, and yeah, yeah, great to be chatting with you guys.